I'm ready to tell you a joke.
Go ahead.
And this is a dad joke.
Okay.
You know they're bad, but they're funny all at the same time.
Exactly.
And you know my husband likes golf.
Okay.
So why is it that my husband, Dennis, takes an extra pair of socks every time he plays golf? Why would he take an extra pair of socks with him every time he goes to play golf?
I don't know why.
In case he gets a hole in one.
Oh, yes,
Sad,
good
isn't
one,
it?
good one. And it's funny. I'm terrible with jokes, and I can't remember them.
Mm-hmm.
And after you said the punchline, I may have heard that, and it's brand new to me. So
yeah,
I love starting the day with a good laugh, a good hearty laugh.
I think that's fun too.
Now, I want to thank you for allowing me to come to your beautiful home. And like we were talking off camera, I've heard your name, watched you get elected, seen your work, and I'm a fan. But now I really get to meet you, get to know you, hear your stories. I know what's in your bio, but tell me what's not there. Tell me what it was like growing up a little girl, and where'd you go to school, and what church did you attend, and the whole 9 yards.
Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity, and it's my pleasure to do this. I love these longer format opportunities because it really does give you an opportunity to get to know somebody. So many times we have to answer in a soundbite, and that's not easy. Yeah. So this is fun. I love this.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming out today. But let me tell you a little bit about me. So I grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, on the bayou.
Really?
In Mississippi, yes.
Okay.
In a small town called Ocean Springs, which is just about an hour or so from Mobile.
Okay.
And had sort of a small town life. Lived with both, mother, father. I had a little sister. And we all went to the same public high school. Everybody in my town of Ocean Springs went to the same public high school, which was wonderful because I had basically the same friends from first grade to 12th grade.
Right.
I thought I lived in the best town in the whole wide world. I didn't know why anyone would want to live anywhere else. We were definitely, I would say, lower middle class. My mother was the breadwinner. She actually worked to support our family. She didn't want to work. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Okay. But she ended up being the one that made the money. She went back to school and learned computer science. Oh. And she was probably the smartest person I know. But she drove back and forth to the University of South Alabama to learn programming and became a systems analyst at Bosch & Lomb there in Ocean Springs.
Okay.
So she worked all the time. And we were kind of on our own as kids, which was great.
How many siblings did you have?
So I had one sister.
Okay.
We rode our bike everywhere. We lived near the railroad tracks. And I would just take my little bike and go across the railroad track wherever I wanted to go. When I go back home now, they have golf carts, which is amazing to me. I'm like, what happened to bicycles? That was perfectly fine. But it was a beautiful place to grow up on the bayou. And then we had the beach right there. I was active. I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of really close girlfriends. In fact, some of them I got together with just a month or so ago. Okay. We still keep in touch. I still go home to visit my dad, who's still alive. He's in assisted living there in Ocean Springs. I have an aunt, uncle, two uncles that actually live there. So, I still have family there, still go home quite a bit. But I had to work my way through school. I started working when I was probably 15. In the summers, we had a Gulf State Park there, and I worked there one summer full time. And that was just a great opportunity to have a full-time job at that young age and earn some money so that I could buy clothes or anything that I wanted. Right. And then the next summer when I turned 16, I started working at Hardee's, and I worked at that Hardee's because it was right down the street and I could walk there. I didn't have a car, so I could walk there if I needed to. And I worked there for several years. So when you see Trump kind of pretending to actually work the fry machine, I actually worked the fry machine.
Right.
And my favorite was the breakfast shift. So I did that at 5:30 in the mornings because I could get off at I even talked about this on on the House floor with Napoleon one time because I had a bill that allowed 14 and 15-year-olds to work. And we just got to talking about how we worked when we were young. And he worked fast food too. And he, like me, liked to work the morning shift because then you could work to 10:30 and get off. Or if you needed extra money, you could work till 2:30, work through the lunch shift.
And still be off in the middle of the day.
Yes. So I was brought up working hard, knowing that if I wanted to be a success, I had to work for it. There was a time when we qualified for free lunches, and my mother said, no, we're not going to take them. I can pack your lunch and y'all just do that. So there was a few years there that we actually did qualify for school lunches. And as she moved up and made more money, we did fine. You know what? I never knew that we were tight. I never knew money was tight because life was good and I had so many friends and it just didn't matter.
Right. And when did you decide, or how did you decide to move past high school? You know,
Right.
what was that
Yes.
decision making like?
Yes. So I always knew I was going to go to college. And I was very much looking forward to that because I really wanted to move on. As much as I loved Ocean Springs, I knew that wasn't where I wanted to be forever. And so I went to the University of South Alabama because it was just an hour away and you didn't have to pay out of state tuition. They gave the kids on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in-state tuition. So that gave me an opportunity to go somewhere different from where all my friends were going and to just kind of forge my own way. And I started out in computer science. I was terrible, switched over to finance, and I loved that. So I got a finance degree at South Alabama, started working for Compass Bank, and that was my first and only job. I immediately went to work for them out of college. They paid for me to get a master's degree at Spring Hill College. And then within 3 years, met my husband, got married, and we moved to Birmingham. So we have actually, I say Birmingham, but the Birmingham area.
Sure.
We moved to North Shelby County, and we've lived here for 36 years.
Now, I really can't believe you just attempted to blow past meeting your husband.
I did blow past that, didn't
I? Yeah, you want, and you have on red.
Yes.
So we have to hear the love story.
Yes.
We got to hear the love story.
So my husband and I met after college, and I always tell him it was kind of a good thing because I really don't know if I would have gone out with him in college. He wasn't a serious student. He lived at home. He worked. He didn't live on campus. He worked in his dad's scrapyard. Okay. And, he took him probably 2 or 3 years to figure out what he was going to do. But he became an accountant and a CPA. So my roommate introduced us. She was working at his CPA firm. And she said, hey, there's this guy I want you to meet. And I said, well, okay. And so we went to a happy hour after work. This is back when everybody went to happy hour and you could eat dinner at those happy hours.
People forget about happy hour.
Yeah, they'd have a full buffet. And so, that's what young people did back then. So we met. He asked for my phone number. And we were both kind of dating other people at the time. But anyway, a couple of months later, he eventually called me, asked me out. Our first date was to the beach, which I loved. So that was a winner.
That was a winner.
And we went to Pirates Cove, where we still visit today, where they have mangy dogs and juicy hamburgers. So that was a good pick. And then on the way home, we stopped at a watering hole in Magnolia Springs, which I just visited last week. Okay. So it was so fun to see that again, and jumped in this cold watering hole on the way back to Mobile. So, after that, it was just, it was just, so we got married probably a year and a half later. And he likes to tell the story that I dragged him to Birmingham, that he had no idea that this was going to happen. But I got a promotion with Compass Bank and was offered a job in Birmingham. And I just told him, I said, we talked about this. I've got this promotion. And, but anyway, it turned out to be a good thing. He quit his job, got a new job once we got up to Birmingham. And it just turned out to be a great thing for us to get away from family, start on our own in a new area. And we have loved North Shelby County. We never looked back.
That's outstanding. And when we met, like I said, Dwayne had told me a lot about you, and I've heard a lot about you from other people. I just
Mhm.
find you to be the most charming, beautiful person.
Well, thank you.
But like me, I hear you have a little edgy side.
Edgy. Okay.
now, do you think so? Or do you think you're just driven? Or, you know, tell me about your personality,
Okay.
the inside you.
The inside me.
Yeah.
I would say I'm passionate when I get onto something that I feel is important. I am passionate, and I'm a
Mm-hmm.
really hard worker, and I don't give up. So
Mm-hmm.
that is true. I don't know if that's edgy, but I always hope that I am giving everybody the utmost respect. If somebody has a difference of opinion with me, I am always willing to sit down and talk and listen. And I think that's what's missing a lot of time in our conversations today is just the willingness to listen and try to empathize and put yourself in that other person's shoes. And so I hope that I am seen as someone who is willing to do that. I know that I spend a lot of time. I've had some committee hearings where there's a lot of people in opposition to the bill that we're going to talk about today, my What is a Woman bill. And I always spend time talking afterwards. I have met people for lunch that spoke against the bill, and I perfectly, am perfectly understand
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to I'm not going to change what I feel like I stand for. And I feel like sometimes there is some meeting of the middle that we can all come to if we
Mm-hmm.
give that an opportunity.
It's interesting you say that because, as I told you, a lot of times our news outlets choose a
Mm-hmm.
small snippet or clip of what they want to show, what they want you to hear.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted
Yeah.
to ask you about
Well, I
that because
appreciate that.
you don't seem to be that person at all. But please expound on the bills we're talking about. And I want to tell you, first of all, that you asked me when I walked in, how did, what made me want to reach out, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And just to be 100% honest, I support your bills 100%. I really do. As a Black man in a society where my community um, has challenges as far as two-parent homes,
Mm-hmm.
fathers and children's lives, I think all of this makes a difference. I think the things that society says we should turn our head to or close our eyes to or mind our own business, I think those are the reasons why my community in particular suffers the way it does. So I want to start off by saying I support your bill 100%, your bills 100%. But in your words,
Mm-hmm.
tell us what they really are.
Okay. Well, the one bill that you mentioned right away was my bill, which I call the What is a Woman bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the title of that bill just attracts a lot of attention. But all that bill does is define male, female, man, woman, boy, girl by the traditional biological definition that we know to be true. So a female, for example, is an individual whose body is designed to produce an ova at some point in her life. And a male is an individual whose body is designed to produce a sperm at some point in his life. So it's really just basic definitions, and it's kind of sad that we would even have to define those words and codify it into Alabama law. But it's necessary because a lot of people are changing the definition of male or female. and the definition of sex. So, we had a Supreme Court justice that couldn't define woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hard. That's an adult female. That's a really easy definition. So, and then we have the issue with women in sports, right?
That's a big issue.
And let me tell you, your opinion is how most Alabamians feel. We have polled Alabama, and the state of Alabama, 90% and above in both parties agree that, a man is a man, a woman's a woman, and women should play sports with women. They should not be competing with someone whose body is larger and stronger and has a bigger cardiovascular capacity. So in the state of Alabama, unlike some other states, we do believe in the traditional definitions of man and woman by and large. I would say most of our polls are around 90%, that's pretty huge. So this is really an issue that unites people. So the very first bill that I passed 2 years ago, it was my very first session. I'd been in a month, and I passed a bill that requires at the collegiate level, women play sports with women. And the same for male. Men play sports with men. So you compete fairly. And that's, what Title IX was all about 50 years ago, is giving women educational opportunities. So I have to tell you, that bill passed easily. I think we had, it's very close to 100% of everybody voting for that bill. I had one of my good friends, Patrick Sellers, come down on the House floor. He's an African-American Democrat minister. Came down on the House floor. He didn't tell me he was going to do this. And he spoke in behalf of that bill. He said, I have 2 young daughters. I want them playing on a safe and level playing field. This bill makes sense. He got a standing ovation from the whole gallery. That has never happened since I've been there. And it was just a testimony to how people have common sense and how supportive and uniting that bill was. So that bill passed 2 years ago. And then last year I brought up my What is a Woman bill, which just takes it a step further when we realized we really just needed to go back and codify those basic terms. And I've had, support from both sides of the aisle. Last year it didn't pass because we had a lot of other things going on, but I think it'll come up early this year. I think it'll pass, and I think it just makes sense.
We talk a lot about, or I won't say we talk a lot about, the media talks a lot about that bill and its ramifications and its impact. And you've been put into this bubble of that defining Susan Dubose, but you're working on so much more.
I am. I'm working on so much more. And let me just say one other little thing about that bill.
Sure.
That bill has what I call What is a Woman bill. It really has nothing to do with your ability to identify however you want. That bill defines sex. Gender is how you choose to identify. That doesn't take away anyone's rights to identify how they choose to identify. So that bill doesn't take away rights. It doesn't say, you identify the way you want to. That doesn't change your actual sex. So there's sex and there's gender. They're two different things. Sex is fixed. It's determined by God at conception. Gender is your feeling of how you associate. And that doesn't affect anybody's ability to determine how they feel according to their gender. So that's how I want to try to explain that bill. I'm not really trying to take away someone's rights. I'm simply defining these other sex-based terms.
I think that's important that you say that.
It's important to know that. And it really is. And, there are people in the LGBT community that actually support this bill. One of my favorite podcasters, or actually she's a journalist, Barry Weiss. She's a Jewish lesbian. And if you follow the Free Press, that's her journal, that's her website. She's a fantastic journalist. But she supports these issues that I stand for, even as a lesbian. She understands there's a difference between male and female.
Right.
And there's reason to define those terms properly.
And then as far as gender, you can identify however
you want. We're not changing that. But we were talking about this earlier. This bill I probably drafted 2 years ago.
Right.
And it's been kind of just sitting there waiting to pass. A lot of people write about this bill that have never even talked to me in person. That's a little disappointing because I would like to fully explain it to them because they leave a lot of things out. And I would like to fully explain it to them, but they don't reach out, so I don't get that chance. So I appreciate this. But where my heart really is and what I spend a lot of time working on is education. So I'm on the Education Policy Committee, and I have spent countless hours this summer going to conferences, learning how we can improve education in the state of Alabama. And that's one of the main reasons that I ran for this position.
Oh, you're talking my language, education.
So, I just feel education and a good job is the key to success in life. And if we can start kids out by third grade reading so that they can then read to learn, get them a pathway, whether it's to college or to a career, that's going to give them success in life. It's going to keep them out of jail. It's going to keep them out of poverty. It's going to help them be a success. And we know this statistically. So one of my favorite bills that we passed this year that I worked really hard on is school choice. And so every time I get an opportunity, I want to talk about school choice.
Please do.
So this goes into effect in the fall. And this allows all students within a certain income bracket, the first 2 years, to have an opportunity to select a school. Anybody that makes less than $95,000 a year, any family of four that makes less than $95,000 will have an opportunity to participate in our school choice program. It will give each student $7,000 a year to go to the school. They can go to a private school, virtual school, just any type.
Does it include charter schools?
Charter school, yes. They can go to any of those schools.
Okay.
And pick the school that's right for them. Now, we know most students will choose to stay in the public school, but there are some students that can benefit from a different school. Students shouldn't be limited by their zip code to what school they go to. My family's fortunate. We were able to live in a community, Hoover, that has fabulous schools, and that's one of the reasons we chose to live here. Mm-hmm. But if you are not in a position to do that, sometimes you're stuck in a school that's not right for your kid, and you should have opportunities. So I see a lot of Christian schools, more Christian schools popping up. I see more private schools popping up. We already have many virtual school opportunities. And I think this is going to be life-changing for our kids. I think over the next 10 years, education will be completely transformed in the state of Alabama. And you may see even hybrid opportunities where kids go to school for a couple of years, public school, then they'll do homeschooling, and then they'll go back to public school. So another bill that I'm working on to this point is allowing homeschoolers to attend career tech at public schools. So career tech is hard to replicate at home, but we know how important that is. So this allows homeschoolers to attend any career tech program in a public school. It may be medically related, a medical field. I mean, we're coming up with fabulous career tech programs. It could be something traditional like welding, plumbing, electrician, but we have a lot of health programs now that are starting in the career tech field, cosmetology, so many different things. And so it allows those kids to go to a public school part-time, receive those benefits, and then they can decide, do I want to go to college? Do I want to explore this career down the road? So that's something that bill, I have complete support of everybody in the education field is behind that bill. So I see that passing coming up. But school choice is something that I want to encourage parents to look into. It starts next year. In year 3, all parents, regardless of income, will have the opportunity for their kids to participate in school choice.
That's wonderful. Now, it was wonderful having you here. I hope I can come back at some point.
Please come back. It went by so fast.
And I always like to close with a few shout outs. So if you want to shout out the kids or
Yeah.
other legislators or the hubby, whoever you like.
Well, let me shout out to my female legislators. I have to tell you, we have so much fun together. There's not that many of us. I think we have 10 that I caucus with in the Republican caucus. But we just got back from a week down in Fairhope,
Okay.
where we were with Women in the Woods. That was a special group with the Forestry Association.
Okay.
And we got to go out on a boat, and we got to do we did a self-defense class with guns. So anyway, I want to say hey to my girls. We always have so much fun together. And I live with 4 of them during session. We rent a house together.
Okay.
And that's always fun. And hey, I want to say hello to my constituents in District 45, from Chelsea to Leeds to Irondale to Mount Laurel and Greystone and Highland Lakes and all places in between. It is my honor and pleasure to represent you guys.